It's been a long wait, but the Aussie faction is finally coming. It took a while to get here, mainly due to technical debt, and how the DLC system factored things like factions into the base game. But these road bumps have finally been bypassed, and this has allowed the Australian faction to be added within patch 2.15. To start off, we're going to look at to what the Aussies bring, and then carry on through to see what else 2.15 entails. The primary rifle within the Australian faction is the EF88. Within it, we get the iron sight variant. The recoil and handling of the weapon is quite manageable. It is a little bit jumpy when it comes to point shooting. For the SL, he gets a grip pod, and it makes recoil even more manageable. Next in line we have the F88 with the 552 EO tech on top. Much easier to use compared to the iron sight and a much better sight picture. And then there's the SL variant, again with the grip pod. The magnified optic for the EF88 is the Elcan Spectre, which is 4 times magnification. Managing the recoil while using this optic is pretty easy. Originally there was a 1x option for this, but that was removed, as we'll be seeing variable magnification added to squad in the future. For crewmen and pilots, they get the short-barreled version, the EF88C. It has jumpier recoil, but is still quite manageable even with it. For the Grenadier, they get the SL40, which comes with a micro red dot to aim instead of standard leaf sights. It can be ranged to 400 meters, and just operates like any other GL within the game. Bit of a blast from the past, the F88 is also present, though you only can use this within a certain layer, which we'll cover later on. It has the 1.5 times magnified donut sight, and just like the EF88, it has quite manageable recoil. Now we get to listen to the sound. The HK417 with a 4 times ACOG is their marksman rifle. It has quite comparable recoil to something like the M110 for the US faction, though when you bipod it, it is quite accurate, even when spam firing. The Specialist MG roll has the Maximi, which comes with an Elcan Spectre, which is 4 times magnification. The recoil of the weapon itself is quite manageable, even with this 4 times optic. For the Americans watching this, the Mark 48 is a variant of this weapon. The auto rifleman rolls get the Minimi, which come with the 552 EO tech. It has the same recoil as the SAW, as the M249 is a variant of the Minimi. There's also the Elcan Spectre variant, which you get to use. Again, just an M249 essentially, with a 4 times optic. We won't be covering its sound, as it's the exact same as the M249. The sidearm for the Aussies is the Hi-Power MK3. It has decent iron sights, and its recoil is quite manageable for what it is. Mounted on vehicles is the Mag58, or as a lot of people will know, the M240. It's a similar situation between the Minimi and the M249, same recoil, same sound. The Australians have their own grenade, the F1. It's different compared to the Soviet era F1, but this functions just like the M67 in game. The Benchmade SOCP is the knife you'll get to utilise, and it's quite large, it's almost comically large. This is a knife, you know what I'm saying?
That is a knife, you're not wrong. That's more like a fucking sword.
The Osmod developers did really well with the faction. The weapon models and the vehicle models are top quality. And as always, has nailed the sound design. I was specifically impressed the most by the EF88 gunshot sounds, specifically the mid and long range profiles, which are quite comparable to what it is in reality. It just lacks that extra environmental interaction with the reverb and all that. Now that the weapons are out of the way, we get to look at the vehicles. First, we're going to look at the Bushmaster PMV, which comes in 3 variants. The first is armed with a singular Mag 58. The second variant is essentially a battle bus and is armed with 3 Mag 58s, while the third has an M2 remote weapon system. Next up is the ASLAV, which is the Australian version of the LAV 25. One thing I did notice, when this was a mod, there was a Mag 58 that could be utilised, but appears to have been removed. The sights for the weapon systems are pretty decent too. Bit of a blast from the past, an Abrams M1A1 is the main battle tank at use here, though I wouldn't be surprised in seeing the M1A2 SEP3 in the future as the ADF is adopting this. It appears a Mag 58 has been removed from the Abrams too. The main weapon system sights are what you expect from an Abrams. The HX60 is the vehicle used for transportation and logistics. It's pretty much similar to all the other logistics and transportation trucks in the game. 2 helicopters will be available with the Aussies, starting off with the MRH-90. It's able to carry 1500 supplies and up to 16 players, making it the overall highest capacity helicopter in the game. The second helicopter is the Black Hawk. It's pretty much the same as all the other Black Hawks, aside from the sick camouflage. Now moving on to something I touched on earlier, the F88. It is currently only available within Chora RAAS v3. The developer Baron decided to make this sort of like an Easter egg layer. I would assume due to the fact the Aussies fought heavily in the real life Chora Valley. The commander call-ins are pretty much in line with all the other conventional factions, but the CAS call-in is comparable to the Russian SU-25 strike. But instead of a SU-25, there's an FA-18 coming in with its rocket strike. Originally within the mod, it was a JDAM strike, but has since been removed by OWI. Though the 500-pound bomb is still within the SDK, so I'd assume it will come back in the future when Offworld starts to expand on the commander role again. In the test there were some bugs with the FA-18, with its sound design cutting in and out, as well as particle effects and impact effects not showing, which I would assume the Physmat stuff isn't set up for it yet. Now we're going to quickly go over some of the voice lines.
Advance and secure. Our mission is to secure all objective areas. Move out.
No, shit! No, shit! Ah!
Oh shit, I'm hit. Help, I'm down.
Offworld did record some new voice lines for the Oz faction, which would be the death sound effects, and they sound pretty damn good. The medic call, it's not bad, but it's not great. It still could use some work. There's more voice lines, and some of them do have swears, what you would expect from, you know, an Aussie. Though I haven't heard the word cunt in any of the voice lines, so that needs to be sorted out Offworld. Something interesting to mention is the engineer role has been split in 2, with one having an iron sight variant of the rifle, but has the timed explosive, while the second kit gets the LCAN, and instead of the timed explosive, has the AT mine. I'm not too sure how I feel about the role split. I can see why this has been done. It does slightly nerf the kit a bit, and does require a bit more teamwork and communication. But as we all know, in public matches, teamwork and communication isn't always a guarantee, and it's just a mixed bag. The role split is also present in the Chora RAAS v3 unique layer, though both options have an optic as it's a fixed 1.5 on the weapon. But the choice between wanting the timed explosive or the AT mine is still there. Some new deployables have been added, one for conventional factions and one for the militia. The militia's tower only costs 300 build points. It's a wooden structure with a ladder that you climb up. Both towers have the one-way netting that you can see and shoot through. All conventional factions share the same tower model, but the camouflage matches their own factions. The conventional tower costs 600 build points. The towers are pretty effective, they do conceal you quite well, but the muzzle flash does leak through. You can see the flash from all distances, up close and afar. If you're on the opposite end, you're going to have to aim above where the muzzle flashes and hope to hit him in the head. Up close, it is quite difficult to see the people behind the gun too, due to the muzzle flash in the netting, as Conan here found out. Now these towers do have some issues. You can vault through the front, and then do a jump vault to bypass the barbed wire, and crouch walk inside. Another issue is you can build emplacements on the railing. Though it sticks out, it does sort of make it a little OP as it conceals the gunner a lot more. If this isn't fixed by release, expect to pop out on the roof when you dismount from emplacements. A unique deployable for the Insurgent faction, a Tire Fire. It costs 100 build points, and each SL is limited to 1 each. Now these will be good to not only block off roads, but block off sight lines as well, as the smoke travels pretty high, and you can see it from pretty far. And yes, standing in the fire will eventually kill you. I think the damage it outputs could be a little higher, as it does take a while to burn to death. However, driving a vehicle on the fire does not cause any sort of damage whatsoever. I think some minor damage should be done over time. HESCO walls have received some more love, and now have barbed wire on top of them. Now you can't vault over HESCO walls, you kinda just bounce off and take damage. Though you'll be able to buddy vault or run along a sandbag and vault over, you will take damage and then you will sink into the barbed wire and take damage over time. So if you do manage to get over, you most likely are going to get seen and shot before you can make it fully through. But you can bypass this by simply vaulting where the metal bar sticks out and then vaulting again on the metal bar, and it will sort of just vault you over, though it does take some time, so you might get shot still. An easy way to bypass the new HESCOs is simply build a ladder and jump on over. Now if you're on the inside, you can easily just vault over, so if you come across Mr. Superfobber building one, you can just vault over taking minimal damage, even though it's still annoying. Deployable camo now matches the biome, so now you'll see desert, snow, and forest on the correct maps. On top of this, some camo netting has been added to pretty much all the deployables, and the damage resistance has been increased across the board too. As seen before, HABs have had camo netting added to them. On screen you can see a conventional HAB and the militia HAB. They function pretty much the same, with the camo net being one way, and having a nice little light inside now. The netting makes it a lot easier for someone to hide inside and shoot out, but also makes it a lot easier for someone attacking to hide inside and camp it. Now the insurgents, they get the shit end of the stick here. They don't get camo netting, they get some dirty old shitty cloth. Though it still functions the same as the camo netting, and instead of a light, they get candles. From attacking perspective, it does make you a bit more cautious when approaching, as you don't know if you're going to get shot coming in or not, but once you're inside, the advantage is yours. You get a bit of a confidence boost knowing no one can see you from the outside, and allows you to freely camp until you can take the HAB down. So it's going to be a lot more pre-firing and a lot more grenade use when trying to take back one of your own HABs. Now the camo netting itself actually works pretty well. Try and spot it here. Can't see it? Let's pull out the binos. And there it is. It is a lot harder to notice them from a bird's eye view, but in a helicopter flying up high, the LOD and culling comes into play and they still stick out. Visible arrows are now present when placing a HAB, so you can see where the exits are. I wouldn't mind seeing it being added to things like the indirect fire shelter and some others. Bruno has been extremely busy. There's a lot of new visual effects within the game now. His previous work was exceptional, but this is just a whole nother level. Kudos to Bruno. So let's have a little look-see. As you guys can see, the fire and particle effects have been improved significantly, as well as the smoke, and there's been some nice attention to detail added. Example being, the fire you're about to see come out of this T-62's barrel. The attention to detail and the new visual effects with smoke and fire and particles have been added to mortar impacts as well, for both smoke and HE. The 1P29 ranging has been re-added again, and it can be zeroed up to 400 meters. The same treatment for the SUSAT, it can now be ranged up to 600 meters zero. Weapon depth of field on optics and iron sights is making a comeback into the game. The effect will be applied from medium and above on post-processing. Setting it to low will completely turn it off. UI indication on the capture rate scaling for flags has been added, so you know how fast the cap is going. The last thing I want to touch on is partial reloads have been implemented correctly. While there were partial reload animations in previous versions, the animation didn't match the amount of ammo being reloaded. So for weapons like the Mosin and the SKS, if you fire 2 shots, it'll show a 2-round reload. This change does nerf the SKS quite a bit, as it increases the reload time quite significantly. To get the stripper clip reload animation, you have to use all rounds in the mag. I think once you reach 50% capacity it should do the stripper clip, and then use the single round reloads for top up. Anyway, this is pretty much it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. There might be a few more things coming for 2.15, we'll just have to wait for the patch. But until then, and until the next video, I'll catch you guys later.